What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host coming at you at 11 a.m., Zach, and today's subreddit is r/IDoWorkHereLady with a little bonus from r/today I fudged up.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.
This story's called, "We Aren't Trying to Hack You, We're the Guys That Build Your Computers." I don't know if this is the right sub for this, but here we go. So my friend and I work for a tech support company. We are a retailer for one of the most popular point-of-sale software suites in the country. We also dabble in all the hardware and peripherals that go with it. Both my friend and I are systems analysts. He specializes in databases and menus. I focus on integration, which usually comes down to making sure whatever stupid bean counting program the client uses to track their sales internally works with our equally janky software. Yay. Both of us have plenty of experience in computer science, networking, and cybersecurity. So it has been a long day, and we both had to stay late due to one fire or another. It's 3 in the morning, and we decide best course of action is breakfast/dinner. We head to a local diner that just so happens to be one of our clients. They don't get their tech support through us, but we sell them hardware. We, being nerds and lacking basic people skills, don't notice that we are the only customers in the place. They are dead. We get coffee and a breakfast plus dinner. Just a couple of fat nerds enjoying the fruits of our labors. That is when my friend notices something. Mounted to the ceiling behind me is a wireless access point.
I didn't know they had customer Wi-Fi,
he says. It turns out they don't. The only available Wi-Fi is listed as Diner 3PD. The 3PD stands for third-party delivery, meaning that is the Wi-Fi used to make their Grubhub or DoorDash tablet work, or whatever third-party delivery company they use. The Wi-Fi is also not password protected. Quickly forgetting ourselves, my friend and I set to work. After gaining access to the Wi-Fi through my phone, I poke and prod and find out that the Wi-Fi is plugged into their switch. This means that it is behind all of their security, and basically is a back door into their computer system. The two of us get about as animated as fat nerds are prone to do. We began throwing jargon around as we analyze and prod at the store's network. We find their office computer and soon are just one password away from their internal documents. This store is horrendously unsecured. After confirming our suspicions, we discuss, and my friend says the phrase that triggers this whole situation.
Okay, how would you do it? How would you rob this place?
I start off on a long and elaborate plan involving a Raspberry Pi, some batteries, and a woman's purse. Any person versed in cybersecurity would be laughing at the two of us by this point. However, the general manager for the diner was not well versed in cybersecurity. We had not noticed, but our waitress had gone into the kitchen to do dishes, and the general manager was now our waiter. He never said anything to us, but was on top of those drink refills. My friend and I compare ideas for stealing from the place, and then go and estimate how valuable a diner like this would be to rob in terms of credit card numbers and employee identities. All parts of this discussion are basic and silly, but the general manager hears scary words like dark web, Bitcoin, blockchain, and others such, so he grabs a notepad and begins to write things down. So the store GM had written down as much of our conversation as he was able to, and despite mishearing some of the jargon, he does a decent job of writing down both of our plans for robbing the diner. He then calls the store's internal IT company and tells them what we are saying. The IT guy who takes their phone call is relatively new and tells the general manager to call 911. Once again, my friend and I are more concerned with our food than our surroundings. Close to 10 minutes later, 2 cops show up. They sit along near us, separated by a divider, and coffee just materializes silently at their table. They then just look at each other and quietly sip the magically appearing coffee. Again, my friend and I didn't notice this. Finally, we finish our meals, pay, and leave without being challenged. The cops suggest that real hackers would not actually openly discuss their hacking plans in the restaurant they intend to rob. They did, however, confirm that the stuff we were talking about sounded real, so we weren't some kids trying to get on the news or such. They suggest that we are from some software company or some similar entity. No real threat there. They will, however, make a report and do the basics to ensure we are not hurting anyone. So, during our discussion, we do talk about our own company by name. This is also reported to the diner's corporate IT. This, in turn, gets reported to our corporate office. Our corporate states that they don't know of any employees matching our description. We work in a separate building, so we don't have a lot of face-to-face interaction with our own administration, and that hacking or counter-hacking is not a service they provide. Now, their company and ours believe that a pair of evildoers are going about masquerading as our techs and trying to talk their way into people's offices. A meeting is set up. The next day, the meeting happens, and since both myself and my friend are the senior tech analysts on duty, we are part of it. It is a conference call with the diner's corporate IT team. They explain the situation that there may be people pretending to work for us by trying to get into our client's systems. The police have a report on the situation, and there is a whole recording of the two people in question. We all sit down and the evidence plays, and we end up staring at ourselves sitting at a table across from a pair of cops discussing how insecure the store is. Our entire side of the meeting starts laughing, and my boss explains that those two fat nerds are not only employees, but are sitting in on the meeting. We both announce ourselves and apologize to everyone for causing such a scene. The diner IT team is at a loss for words, and finally we hear, "So, you guys could steal from us that easily?" And that, my friends, is how we almost got arrested, but instead landed a nice contract overhauling a restaurant's chain of internal security. Isn't this an actual thing that people do? It's called white hat hacking, where people find vulnerabilities, or hackers find vulnerabilities, and then they report them to the company or the individual, and then they get paid. And I'm telling you, if you can find, vulnerabilities in, Google's crap or Amazon, and I'm not saying it's easy to do this, but they would pay you a fat paycheck if you could somehow do that. But I don't know how any of it works, so I don't even know how you would even start, so yeah. This story's called When Your Niece Turns Out to Be an Entitled Karen. Sorry about formatting it, Winna. Once again, I am sitting in my favorite booth that overlooks the entire restaurant when I see a familiar face walk in. It was my niece, and she had some friends with her. It must be one of her girls' nights out. We were rather crowded, and there was a bit of a wait. I went back to eating and doing the end of the month paperwork and heard my niece say rather loudly, "You will seat me now. Do you know who my uncle is? I can have you fired just like that." And Tammy, the hostess, tried telling her there were no seats. But my niece wanted nothing to do with it. She said, "My uncle practically owns this place. Mr. H, you know who that is, right?" Tammy nodded her head. "Yeah, I know who he is. I see him in here all the time." My niece said, "Well, then you know I could have your job just like that. All I have to do is make one phone call and you are gone, Missy." I was livid. My niece using my name to get a free ride? Something I frown on. I even looked down on nepotism. I got up and walked up behind her as she continued her rant of how she deserves to be seated. Tammy smiled when I spoke up. "Hello, Lissa. Nice to see you." "Oh, hi, Uncle," she said sweetly. "I was just explaining how I know you and that you're my uncle." "You are using my name to get a free meal, and I do not appreciate it. These people, unlike you, work for a living, and I know your father is going to be very disappointed when I call him and tell him how you are treating these people." "But Uncle, she was being really snotty to me." "Lissa, don't you dare lie to me. Tammy was being nothing but sweet and pleasant, so don't you even dare try it." Lissa squealed out, "But Uncle..." "But nothing. I don't want you trying to be a mooch. I don't approve of it, and your father sure wouldn't." I apologized to her friends and told them they would have to vacate the restaurant now. "Tammy, You see, listen here, you have the right to throw her out, and I will contact the managers of the other 2 restaurants not to seat if they hear you drop my name, or give any free meals. Lissa, I am so disappointed in your behavior right now. Just go. Lissa stomped off with her friends, screaming she was going to tell her daddy. No, you won't, because your dad will side with me. I know he doesn't promote this type of attitude, and I know he didn't raise you this way. Now go. It's been several years since then. She still doesn't talk to me. Her dad apologized for her behavior. Why, I don't know. It's not his fault. He's a good man, and he tells me that he didn't raise her to be like that. But it's okay. He made her get a job, working for me. Yes, I made her work as a dishwasher and said my name better not drift out of her mouth to gain favoritism with others. I think she is still ticked off, but oh well. I still have the respect of my employees. Update, my niece Lissa called me today out of the blue. It was awkward for her at first, but we talked. She said she was sorry and has wanted to apologize for the longest time, just didn't know how. I told her all she had to do was call, say she was sorry, and I would have forgiven her. We caught up, she told me what she had been up to. I told her I knew already, I had been talking to her mom and dad. Just because I was upset didn't mean I didn't care. She said she knows it's no excuse for her behavior, but she was just trying to impress her friends. I told Lissa I understand we do stupid things. She did invite me to her wedding. I invited Lissa to dinner with her fiancé Saturday. And yes, this time dinner really is on me. Wow, people should start posting about unresolved familial issues and you'll get a call out of the blue to completely resolve everything and everything's fine and dandy in the end. How convenient. Alright, this story's called Today I Fudged Up at an Online Lecture. This was bound to happen to someone at some point. I'm just mad I was dumb enough to have it happen to me. Yeah, that wording was awful. This happened literally a few minutes ago. Currently sitting in shock and burning up with embarrassment. So thanks to all this quarantine business, lectures have gone online. Well, I was in bed like a good hour before this lecture started, just waiting on my phone to pass the time. One thing leads to another, and I end up watching some intimate stuff. Anyway, so eventually I get an email with the link to the chat room for my lecture. It's sent half an hour early, so I opened up the link and decided I'd just leave the chat room open on my laptop until everyone comes in and the lesson starts. And in the meantime, I'll continue watching what I'm watching. See, the thing about these lectures is that the default setting when entering as a student is mics off, cameras off. I even gave a brief look at it before entering the room and was sure I saw they were both off. Lecture starts and I am just not in the mood for this class. I decide to just leave it on in the background to count for attendance, and I'd catch up on my own time later. Now keep in mind, I'm home alone, so of course I'm blasting this video at a fairly loud volume in my room. About half an hour later, the professor pauses the informational video they're playing for us. Yeah, my mic wasn't freaking off. Edit! Alright y'all, a few things I guess I should point out because I don't want to keep repeating myself in the comments. 1. I completely understand how some of you find it hard to believe that the professor let it go on for a good 30 minutes. I will clear that up. They were basically talking a whole lot and playing a couple of videos for us, all of which were at a fairly decent volume. My guess for what happened is my mic wasn't loud enough for them to have registered it as a separate source of noise until there was a lull in their speech. That being said, I don't know if it was the same for students. I'm hoping it was, obviously, because the outcome isn't so bad. But when you screw up like that, you kind of freak out and think up every possible nightmare scenario, you know? 2. I was watching stuff for a really long time, yeah, but I wasn't doing anything about it, if you catch my drift. Just to put a little perspective on the whole thing, it was a slow day, and I was browsing the internet and going down one rabbit hole after the next, and somehow ended up at the stuff I was watching. This was after hours of going through other random stuff. It was purely a dopamine chase, I don't know. I didn't realize that'd be hard for people to believe, but I think I can understand why. Because I suppose it's not normal for everyone to be dopamine chasing to that degree, and with the added taboo of the medium I happen to be browsing, it's bound to turn some heads and raise some questions. So I know that stimulating your brain with dopamine is a thing everyone does, but I will mention that with ADHD, it's majorly amplified. Consequently, a lot of things come into play there. Trouble with impulse control, being unable to pull away from sort of quick burning dopamine, basically your brain drifting towards whatever's most stimulating. I was kinda hyper-focusing on going down this rabbit hole of obscenities, and I guess my brain just didn't pull away from it when I needed it to. I mean, obviously. I'm not some pervert who gets off to watching video at bad times. I was just hyper-focusing, I guess, and that's the rabbit hole I happened to be going down. It could have very well been how it's made videos or articles about snakes. Like, I was just going, oh, that thumbnail looks appealing. No, wait, that one looks appealing. Whoa, that one looks weird. The person in that thumbnail looks like someone I know. Oh crap, now that thumbnail is sort of ad infinitum. Until I stopped, of course. Your brain can kind of switch off its awareness of anything outside of what you're hyper-focusing on with ADHD, which is kind of what happened here. It just, unfortunately, happened to be video. Go frickin' figure. Now, to be very clear, I really don't mean to bring this ADHD thing up to try and gain sympathy points or whatever. In all honesty, I don't think I care enough about this post to go to those links. I just thought maybe it'd help explain some of the behavior that got me into this mess, since that seems to be something a lot of people are questioning. Anyway, sorry about that huge lame chunk of text. There's probably a lot more stuff, but this edit doesn't need to go on any longer than it already has. It's literally longer than the original post. I'm not even sure it helped at all. Generally, I do a pretty bad job at explaining things, and for all I know, I just made things worse. Ha ha ha! Thanks for the cool shiny awards. I really didn't expect this to blow up the way it did, and now I've got Reddit Premium for a month, and I'm in like 2 exclusive subreddits on an account I probably won't ever touch again. I don't know why, but that was just like one train wreck of a post. I'm not saying it was a bad post, no, it was a good post, but like, it's a train wreck. First, it's the initial thing that happened, and then those edits. Man, this guy was like digging himself out of a hole, and it was just like going everywhere, man. But it was entertaining, and I hope it made good content for you folks. Let me know.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.